Alright, we're down at the shop again today. Stay tuned. We've got new toys. We've got a replacement plasma cutter. Okay, so this unboxing is not going to be about something new that I've never messed with before. This is the new Primeweld Cut 60. This is my old trusty ESAB PowerCut 1250. This machine has been an awesome machine. I just posted this up to get it for sale and get rid of it. And the reason I'm getting rid of it, one, it's direct wire, which is 3-phase or 240. And I have the Lincoln Power Meg, which has a standard 50 amp receptacle. So this had to be hardwired in, and it was really hard to move. It did have a really long cord, but it was difficult to move around, and definitely this wasn't something I could take with me or portable. That's the main reason for getting the Primeweld. Another issue, consumables for this are relatively expensive. I don't do a whole lot of cutting, but when I need it to work, and getting consumables is kind of more painful for this machine than it is for this. I can get these on Amazon or eBay. This one I have to, I've gotten them on eBay and they don't work really well, so I have to order this through a welding supplier, and with everything that's going on, that's become more and more difficult. So getting rid of this one, this machine is probably vastly superior. I'm thinking I've never used this, but this machine, I think when I purchased this, it was around $3,000. Cuts flawlessly. It's relatively easy on consumables, but again, they're a lot harder to get and a lot more expensive. As you can see on this one, it does roll around, but you will not lift this and carry it anywhere. I was able to carry this box by myself into the shop, so it's going to get a little lighter when I take everything out. So it's probably at least half the weight of this ESAB. Anyway, let's get to it. We're going to unbox this and kind of compare the two. Okay, just so you know, I ordered this on eBay. I paid for this. This is not a paid for kind of thing. This is out of my own pocket. And something I use quite a bit. I've got several projects piled up. Mainly because I disconnected this ESAB. I did want to buy new consumables and get even further into investment on that ESAB, and I've been waiting on this. When I actually ordered it, it took 4 days to arrive at my door, so something really easy to get. Saw really good reviews on it. Box arrived in good shape, which is always important anytime you're ordering something heavy over mail order. As you can see, everything looks great. Got the instructions there. They're pretty beefy. We probably won't go to those unless we have to. And then got foam packaging. Oh wow, that's really nice. So basically airtight seal, good packaging. I would expect anyone who orders one of these, it'll arrive in one piece, no problem. Okay, so this is a machine. Obviously I could pick this up with one hand, which is a huge improvement. And this is what I was talking about the plug. So this is a standard, this is a welder plug, 50 amp, which basically means anywhere that I plug my welder in, I can also plug this in. This also comes with an adapter we'll get to here in a second. we can plug this into normal 110 at reduced amperage. So 2 boxes also in the package. And that's pretty much it for the box. Now I want to mention on this box, they do have steel corners. If you notice here, this box is in really good shape. And that's because they put a lot of effort into the packaging. So there's a steel corner brace here in the corner. Oh, the one I was going to grab fell out. So that's kind of what they look like. So that protects the box. Really cool. So let's check out what's in this box first. Okay, so this is the torch that they've been talking about. Just from feeling it, this ESAB is a 60 amp plasma cutter. The torch on it, the torch part, the buttons, the ergonomics of the torch itself are awesome. The thing I don't like, it has a giant cord. I'll give you a comparison here in just a sec, but this is a lot lighter package. It probably weighs, this whole cord assembly weighs half of what that ESAB does. And that may be good and it may be bad, but I have a feeling this is a pretty well made torch. A lot of positive reviews. One thing I will mention, let's see what else we got in the back. So you got a wrench and you got an extra set of consumables. With the ESAB, my favorite thing on the ESAB, other than cutting, is it does have gouge functionality, so you can replace the tip and do gouging. I don't know, a lot of times I would gouge without changing the tip, but this machine does not have a specific, this new machine, the Primeweld, does not have a specific gouge tip. I saw online, you can look online and search YouTube. There's a couple of folks that drill out the consumables and make a gouge tip. I don't know that I'll need to do that. I'm pretty proficient about just using the normal plasma function to gouge out what I need. So I'm going to give you another shot here. I'm going to kind of lay this out to where you can see the two side by side. Oh, we got one more box. I almost forgot. It should be relatively simple. So you got this, you know, something good to keep around, especially if you got, you know, visitors or whatever that want to look at what you're cutting. The ground on this is actually, the ground on the ESAB is copper, at least coated, but I bent the heck out of it. This probably, I'd say it's about the same quality as the ESAB. The flexible cable is way more flexible than the ESAB is. It's cold in this shop right now, and I had a heck of a time rolling this ESAB up. This is what I was mentioning before. This is the 110 adapter. So basically this supplies 110, the machine detects it and it reduces the amperage. I'm not really sure what that is. I'm assuming that's probably got something to do. This machine does have the capability of using it with a plasma table. So you can buy a different torch and it has hookups on it to use with a plasma table, which is something I may do in the future. Another reason for getting it. The ESAB could do that too. When I researched the price of doing that, you're talking over $1,000 more than what this whole plasma cutter, the Primeweld, cost. The ESAB, just the torch option and to set it up for CNC table operation was pretty expensive. I don't really fault the ESAB for that. Plasma tables weren't really big when I bought this. Like I say, this is a pretty old unit. It served me well, but it came at a time when plasma tables weren't real big. Anyway, let me get these side by side and I'll kind of show you the difference. Okay, both units are side by side now. This unit is at least a foot shorter than this unit, about 8 inches less height, and just guessing, I would say total stick out including this, actually let's subtract that because we may end up doing that, this cable carrier here on the side, which on the ESAB is pretty nice, but you have to have it because the cable's so big. I would say there's not more than 3 inches of difference in the width. Weight-wise, I can just barely pick up even one side of this ESAB. This I can easily pick up. I mean, I can pick it up with 2 fingers. You're talking about a really big difference in the weight. You are talking about a lot easier movement. You see this big, huge, giant cord. I did build a little welding cart for this ESAB that rolls around. And this is a much smaller cord that you have to deal with. Now that may translate into less cutting power, but the reality is, when I bought this, I was cutting a lot of 1-inch steel. I don't do that anymore. I cut a lot smaller stuff, so this unit should work out a lot better. Okay, let's just go over the front controls. They're fairly simple. There's lots of videos on this unit already. So basically your plasma torch plugs in here. It does have an option in the back, which I'll show you here in a second, for CNC. The ground connections here. You've got your set air, which is very similar to the air test on the ESAB, which basically lets you introduce flow so that you can properly set your regulator. If you're setting your regulator with it not flowing air, you're not going to end up with the right pressure. You've got your post flow, which is how much you're going to cool the torch, how long you're going to cool the torch after you get done cutting, and you've got your power. This has 60 amps, this has 60 amps. So those are equivalent in power. I don't know if they're equivalent in practice, but this ESAB was way oversized for what I needed. So I'm assuming this is going to do just fine. And one thing I'll mention, they don't come with air fittings. And if you're not used to the world of plasma cutting, you need more than just this air fitting. What I use is a airline filter, and I've got a dryer set up, and you want clean, dry air going to your plasma. Things that have changed for me between this unit and this one's super portable. So probably what I'm going to do is do a welding cart for this that's up higher, and I'm actually going to mount the filter and the separator on the cart. This ESAB, I had it plumbed in the wall, and the reason I had it plumbed in the wall because I had an airline that had the same length as the electrical cable. Now that this unit's not going to be wired into the wall, it's more portable. So I need the air cleaning stuff to be actually on the plasma cutter itself. I'll have the air dryer if I'm here in the shop. But if I'm not in the shop, the small micron filter and the water separator should allow me to use this out in the field if I need to, which I'm sure will happen. So these are the connections on the front. Here on the rear, pretty simple. Let me get this unhooked here. So just wanted to test, make sure it powered up. This is the adapter for 110 power. Pretty simple here. You got the breaker in the back. You got your CNC hookup back here that's covered over unless you want to use CNC. And it's got some specifications here on the bottom. I'm sure this was made in China. Yes, it was made in China. Air pressure max is 120. This is what I was talking about. So it's got a fitting here on the back, and you'll need to have something to screw in to connect it, but you actually want to have it filtered air, so make sure that you don't skip that step of filtered air. Let's see what this breaker is actually rated for. And they actually got it covered up. Can't see the rating. Feels like a pretty decent breaker. You got a fan on the back here. Rubber stops all 4 corners. And then, you know, like I said before, you got your plug, which is a relatively small cable, considering you're going to be hooking this up to 50 amps. Okay, so I'm going to try to get this plumbed in temporarily, and we'll do just a real quick test cut, just so I can get a feel of whether this is going to cut as well as that did. Okay, so we got a temporary air fitting in here. I'm going to hook this up to the dried air here in the shop. And I just wanted to mention, so I've got this out now. So you've got your cable assembly, which feels pretty robust. I mean, that's probably as good as what the ESAB has, but it's a much smaller diameter. This is that, I think they call this like a Eurodin, which you can see there. It's got a bunch of different connections. It's keyed here, so when you screw it in, you may or may not want to keep this. Just so in case you need to unhook this and you want to protect the end. I would say probably if you're going to be using this for plasma table and normal cutting, maybe something you want to hang on to. Okay, so we got everything connected. We got our ground clamp here. We got our plasma torch. First thing we need to do is actually set the air pressure. So we're going to turn the plasma on. Okay, fairly simple. So I'm going to try to get my air pressure set to about 60. Okay, so we're at 60. Turn that back off. Lock this back. You pull out on this knob to get the regulator to unlock. You push it in to lock it. So it won't turn once it's locked in. You can tell that you got it locked in because the top of the handle will be smooth. If you've got a little indent there, see that indent? That means it's pulled out. So make sure that's pushed in. Now we're running at 60. We're on 110 power here. We're just going to play around with the little piece of scrap steel that they gave us. Move things back a little bit here. Now this is some of the cheaper units. They are they don't have a pilot arc. So this unit has a pilot arc. And what that means is when I strike this trigger, it's actually going to generate an arc, and then it'll actually do the cutting arc once it gets conductivity between the ground clamp and here. The ESAB works the same way. We'll just give it a little test fire here. So that was the pilot arc. Okay, so here's our play part. And we're just going to do a little cut here to see how this thing performs. So one thing I'll mention, already I'm not a super big fan of this trigger guard. The ESAB has more of a recessed button that you got to get your finger in to connect. So I've got gloves on. I'll get used to it, I'm sure. Basically you got to get your finger underneath there to press the trigger. I do like the guard. The guard is fairly good. This is a little guide here to keep you from getting too close. The ESAB did have like drag tips, so it was a different tip, but it would only go up to like 40 or 45 amps. This kind of will do the same thing. If you're at a low amperage, you can drag tip. But I just took a quick peek at the manual, and it recommends that you don't do that if you can. And generally the things I cut, I'll just use the guard. So let's give it a go. Okay, as you can see, it cuts pretty well. Had a little bit of problem there getting it going, and I don't know if I had it too much current. We'll ramp back up here and see what happens. Okay, so down at my shop, I think I'm actually losing a little bit too much voltage. I've got it hooked into extension cords. Probably not ideal, but at the low amperage, it cuts just fine. So that's a pretty good current. I don't know what millimeter hole this is, but those consumables will probably last quite a while, especially with that guard. Just kind of let you look there. So on consumables, a lot of people think it's just the diameter, but there's actually materials inside of the nozzle that wear out. So once those are gone, your plasma tip's no longer good. So through that fine material, it cuts really easy. You know, obviously if you're cutting bigger stuff, you'd want to have a guide or something. Just so that I know, I'm going to hook this up to proper power. I'm going to pull one of the welder cables over here, and we're going to try to give it a little bit more. I at least want to test it around 40 amps. Okay, one thing I just noticed, so I was going to replace the cord. The fan was still on, but I did not want to, I wanted to switch the power over. So I flipped the breaker off on the very back and noticed the fan still runs, which is good. I mean, basically that means that the unit detected it needed to cool down. Just be in mind that that breaker on the back does not completely cut this unit off. Obviously the fan was still turning. It ran for maybe 30 more seconds and then turned off. So that's something to think about. Kind of like a projector with a lamp. You don't want to you know, completely disconnect power till it completes its cooling cycle. So I've let it cool down now, and we're going to switch it over to some big boy power. Okay, so now we're on a 50 amp 240 circuit. Same thing I plugged my welder into, and now we can go up to the full 60 amps of power. Okay, we got a piece of Z channel here. Give it a little bit better idea. I've got it at 60. The air compressor is going to cut on, so we may turn on some music during this. I really don't know. But I'm going to try to just do a little cut, and we'll see how far down in the C channel this cuts. We're going to bump the pressure up just a little bit. To its recommended setting for 60 amps, and we're going to see how well this does. Okay, that was a fairly fast cut. It basically went that deep. So just to close this video out, this thing works great. It's pretty much, I would not say direct replacement, but value-wise, way better value than the ESAB. Simply because I can get consumables are cheaper, the machine costs less, and it pretty much will do 95% of the things I normally do with the ESAB, with the exception of the gouging. But like I say, normally when I'm gouging, you can change the angle. You can see how far down it cut in that C channel. You can kind of gauge where you should have the cut at an angle to blow the weld out if you need to. It's just not that big a deal. Overall, I really like the torch. The torch is small, it's light, cable's lightweight. Ground wire is pretty comparable to the ESAB and most other ground wires I've used, so that isn't an issue. Controls are nice and simple. You could not set the pre-flow on the ESAB. So what the pre-flow is there for, the setting, I'm assuming is to conserve air. So if you've got this hooked up to shop air, you know, let it do the full whatever cycle it wants to do. If you're out in the field and you're on a small compressor, you may want to turn that down a little bit just to conserve air. Just remember that's going to, you know, reduce your consumable life. And for sure, make sure that you have some kind of filtration. Drier water is the enemy of consumables. But anyway, thanks for watching. You'll probably see this in some more videos. I've got a couple of projects that I need this for to get those projects done, and I'm sure you'll be seeing this again. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.